and gentlemen.
Good evening.
And my brother. Yes. Thanks very much for turning up. I hope you have a nice evening. And to start things off, I'm proud to ask Reverend Dudley Leviston Cooney, President of the History Society in this country, the Old Dublin Society, to launch the book. Thank you very much.
Brian Siggins has a long association with the Old Dublin Society. The first time my attention was drawn to him, I'm sure he will remember. I came to Dublin to give a talk on John Wesley in Dublin, and Brian presented me with a copy of the tracts of Arthur Leary. Arthur Leary was a Capuchin friar in Cork, with whom Wesley had engaged in controversy. Controversy is never helpful. But Wesley decided that Arthur Leary was an odd, quaint, awkward little man. Some months later, visiting Cork, he was introduced to him at breakfast and was surprised to find what a good companion he was. And I'm sure there's a lesson in that for all of us. But I'm not here to talk about things like that. I'm here to introduce you to a book. I hope that you have either bought your copy or will before you leave. The Great White Fair by Brian Siggins. The Great White Fair is the story of the Dublin International Exhibition of 1907. And I'm delighted to be asked to do this launch, not only because of the very high regard that I have for Brian and for his family, but also because my mother and my aunt had a slight association with this great event. In one of the shows at that Great White Fair, they were selling programs. And somewhere in the family archives, there is a photograph of the pair of them at it. The Great White Fair is a reminder of the fact that in the early years of the 20th century, Dublin had a place in the world of international affairs. It was able to attract industrial and artistic exhibits from around the world. We have tended to think of ourselves as being a quiet little country in a corner of Europe. And I remember when I was a boy being told that, well, you know, we are too far off the mainland of Europe ever to make any much of an impact. Whoever said that to me could not have remembered the exhibition of 1907. And whoever said that to me, if he is still alive, and I'm not sure that he is, must be terribly surprised at the impact that Ireland has in recent years made not only on Europe, but on the world. We have a great deal of which to be proud. And here we're looking at the beginning of our involvement in international affairs in the fair that took place on the site where Herbert Park is now, and indeed quite a number of the houses around it. It was an exciting event. To describe an exhibition that happened 100 years ago can make very dull reading. Statistics can be awfully dry. But I found this book a delight. I was not only treated to a great deal of information about the why and the wherefore of it, I was not only treated with statistics of how many people went and what the results were, I was given a guided tour. I felt I was there. I could feel the exhibition coming alive. Now, I have over the years seen many postcards of the Great White Fair of the exhibition of 1907. But for the first time in my life, I began to think that I had visited it. It was as good as a visit to read this book. And that is why I most warmly commend it to you. I have had a slight advantage, well, some of us have, because I see familiar faces here. Some of us have had a slight advantage in that we have heard Brian talk about it. He gave a talk on this exhibition at the Old Dublin Society in the 2006-7 session. And on Wednesday next, it will be my pleasure to ask the Lord Mayor of Dublin to present Brian with the Old Dublin Society's medal for the best paper read to the Society in that year. And that shows you that I am not alone in my estimate of his work. That in fact the Society and the members of the leaders of the Society have seen the immense value of what he is doing. He has contributed in many ways to the Society over the years. He's always talked of himself, I think, as a backroom boy, one that gets the mechanics to work, like the projector and other bits and pieces. This, I understand, is his first venture into print, the first time that he has produced a book. Brian, don't let it be your last. This is the sort of stuff that we really value in this city, that we really need to read, to give us an insight, not just into the events that happened, but into the way people saw them and the way people were involved in them. I am delighted that there are societies like ours who will not just give history dates and major events, but who record and explain the way in which people lived. More and more we need to understand not just what the newsworthy people were doing, or those who were thought to be newsworthy, but what the ordinary people were doing, how they were living, and what they were enjoying. Thank you for helping us to see what the good people of Dublin in 1907 were enjoying, and seeing something of the contribution that our city and country were making to the international scene. It is a great pleasure to launch this book and to commend it not just to you, but to readers everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. There's so many people I want to thank. First of all, I have to thank Gerard, number one son, for without him this book couldn't have been done. His use of the internet, his use of the typewriter, the computer, buying me postcards. Only the other day he turned up with another postcard of Sandy Mount that he bought me, correcting my grammar, writing. Well, I won't tell you other things he said about me, but he is a professional. But I want to thank lots of other people as well. Maureen, for sticking me for 46 years, and for organising this night for you. There'll be plenty of comestibles there on the table, and there's also a drink for you at the bar, those who want one. Now, don't all go rushing out now. The main thing is that putting the thing together started a long time ago with my dad taking me around Harbour Park, and then about 15 years ago I wrote a little piece for news for the roads that News 4 produced. And I gave a little slideshow Maureen asked me to do for the Irish Charles Centre. And there was about 50 little old ladies and little old gentlemen. And I was showing all the slides. Not a lot, unfortunately, but enough. And I happened to mention one of the things that I showed a slide of the water chute. You can see it here afterwards. And I happened to mention, I don't suppose any of you remember that. And a voice came out of the jacket. So I remember it very well. And she paused. Great actor Mrs. Murray was. And she said, I was 100 at the time. No, she says, I was 15 at the time. And then somebody did a quick compute. Oh my God, they said she's 100. She looked about 65. She had the strength of life in her, you wouldn't believe. When she was about 98, I think she was, some fellas broke into her house.
Oh, yes.
And she said, you better get out quick, the son is coming home. Of course, she says, I didn't tell him he wasn't coming home until October. And then he was 65. So she wouldn't take the meals and wheels. Oh no, I wouldn't have that at all, she says. And she fed herself until she was about 103. But it met her when she was 104, after taking photographs just after that slideshow. And I said to her, hello, Mrs. Murray, how are you? Oh, she said, I've got to apologise. She says, my memory's not what it was. But her memory of that was very, very bright. She remembered everything. And sitting in the concert hall, on her own, with Miss Bell, who was the organist of the Star of the Sea Church, on a Sunday. At the early part of the exhibition, it wasn't open on a Sunday. It was later on. And she says, I sat in this concert hall, she says, 15-year-old child, she says, and outside with these black men, you know, the Somali villagers, you know, and in Dublin 100 years ago, it was, I remember seeing when I saw an African, when I was a kid, you'd be, you know, who's they, well, you know, you'd be frightened almost. But she says that was her feeling, that she was a bit afraid of these. They lived on the site for 6 months with their wives and children, making pots and things. And anyway, as it came from that what she did, she said to me, so I decided to start putting bits and pieces together. Gerard on the internet bought several lovely photographs, including these ones here you see. This one here, very impressive photograph. It looks like St. Peter's in Rome when you get beside it. And he picked up lots of stuff like that for me, including a badge belonging to one of the committee members, the head of one of the committees, a lovely gold medal belonging to a fellow called Trazilian. So I'll be wearing that when I'm giving the lecture in the RDS in a few weeks' time. But I also want to thank, with the putting together of this, and also the exhibition that's going on in the RDS in a few weeks' time, on the 17th of October. The RDS are backing an exhibition that the Baldbridge, Donnybrook and Sandymount History Society, which is only a year old, unlike the old Dublin Society, which is nearly 75 years old. And they're putting this exhibition on for us for 6 weeks, so make sure you all go and have a look at it. It's a free exhibition, and it's going to be beautifully done, using a lot of the stuff from my collection, and also stuff collected by members of the Donnybrook History Society, John Holohan and Gail and Court and a few others. And so with that, I just want to tell you that there's a free, there's free drink at the bar for you, and there's tea and buns here. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, what way?
Our society is in fact the oldest society in the city, and devoted to the history of Dublin city and county, and indeed is the only one, I think, that still confines itself very largely to local history, to recording and sharing the story of former years in Dublin city and what used to be Dublin county, and is now, of course, the three counties of Fingal, South Dublin, and Dunleary Rathdown. Indeed, we occasionally do a little bit of poaching, we include Bray. And it is a great pleasure and honour, since the days of our founder, Alderman Thomas Kelly, that the #1 member of the society is the Lord Mayor in office. And so, my Lord Mayor, may I present you with your membership ticket?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And at this point, my Lord Mayor, if you would like to share with us your comments for the evening, if you like to use the podium, the microphone is on.
Thank you very much indeed, President. Well, ladies and gentlemen, obviously any Lord Mayor on their first occasion being here with the Old Dublin Society is a new Lord Mayor. As you know, we only get 1 year in the job, and we have to do the best we can. Just earlier on, Germany was calling, and I went to the German embassy for their reunification day between, East and West Germany, and a lot of ambassadors there. So I had a half a glass of wine. I'm still pretty sober. But it got me thinking about, times past and the World War. And when I said Germany calling, I meant somebody used that as an opening gambit in when they were making their radio broadcasts. The driver, I put him on the spot. I said, "Who was it?" And he said, "Lord Ha-Ha." And I said, "Well, tell me his real name." And he couldn't do that. And I could, And one thing I've learned in life, never ask a question unless you know the answer. Because I would have looked pretty bad if I didn't have the answer to that one. But anyway, that was just a by the way. The Old Dublin Society was founded 73 years ago in 1934 and published the Dublin Historical Record, the leading journal for the study of Dublin's history, to track scholarly and popular interest among writers and readers alike at home and abroad. The President was telling me earlier on, or you were saying it there in your opening remarks, that we cover the whole of Dublin, even Birdseye County out there in Fingal, as I call it, where they grow all the vegetables, and Bray. But then we do have a big connection with Bray because we supply them with water. Mind you, it happens to be Wicklow water, but we clean it up and we give it back to them, At a small cost, by the way. Anyway, just digressing every now and again to throw a few remarks of that nature in. On the 9th of July 1934, the Old Dublin Society was formed at a meeting of 48 Dubliners in the Engineers Hall in Dawson Street. I don't know whether that's still there. Dublin City Council Alderman Tom Kelly today was among those who organised the meeting, and he was elected first president. Father Carney, who we all know composed the national anthem, was elected secretary. And the first formal meeting was held in the City Assembly House on the 17th of September 1934. The Society first published Dublin Historical Record in 1938, and it continues to be published quarterly. Kelly had been chairman of the Lane Bequest Claim Committee, a dealer in books and pictures. And Kelly had been a Sinn Féin councillor. He became a TD for South Dublin City in 1933. I was asking the President earlier on about his beautiful chain of office, and I suggested that resembled the Deputy Lord Mayor's chain, which is known as the Clancy chain. It was made for Alderman Clancy, and I think it was made around the same period of time. And both of the medallions are similar. By the way, the Clancy chain is 18 karat gold. What's yours?
24.
I do know it's gold because it's hallmarked. And I understand that you'll have to have an operation, you know, for somebody else to get it. He's thinking of staying indefinitely. Anyway, on the 20th of September, or to the 2nd of October 1937, the Old Dublin Society exhibition was held at the Municipal Gallery of Modern Art in Parnell Square. I'm delighted to say that that's not only still there, but greatly expanded. A very impressive collection of paintings owned by the city are housed there, as well as in City Hall and in, I hope that's not my phone going again, and in the Mansion House. I don't know how many of you have actually been to the Mansion House. Is there anyone who hasn't? Oh, only one hasn't. You're welcome to come and join me sometime. It won't be too difficult for to show one person around. Anyway, on the 23rd of April 1942, Thomas Kelly died, and he was, as we said earlier, the founder. And on the 25th of November 1957, Paddy Carney died, and he was also a co-founder of the society. Now, in late 2007, as I said here, the archives will publish Sheila Cargan's study on the society and on the Alderman Thomas Kelly. Is that correct? Yeah. So I don't know what precise date is down for that, and it certainly would like to be kept informed of when that is. But one of the things I am most impressed with the society is the fact that they are handing over their collection to the City Library and Archives, which will be housed here in this magnificent building here. And I think that is a very generous act on behalf of the society, and I'm sure it will ensure the preservation of the wonderful works that you have collated over the years. So it is my great pleasure and my great honour as Lord Mayor of Dublin to be an honorary member of the Old Dublin Society, and I do wish to be informed of your meetings, and I do hope that I will have the time, although going on today's schedule of work, and I'm not finished yet, and I do apologise, I will have to leave before the end of the meeting for another function that I have to be at. I do wish to come to one of your meetings and hope that I might be able to stay a little bit longer. I'm not running away straight away. I'll be here for a little while yet, but thank you very much indeed for this.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll vary the programme just a little to facilitate your having to go whenever you need. But the first duty that we're going to ask you to perform as an honorary member of the Society is to present a medal. Every year, the members of the Society read papers to the Society on some aspect of history, and every year these contributions are marked. And at the end of the year, the marks are totaled, and whoever gets the top mark is recognised as having read the best paper to the Society during that year. Now, during the year 2006-2007, the paper was about the International Exhibition in Dublin in 1907. A brilliant paper, beautifully illustrated, and subsequently published in book form by the author. And it is a delight to ask you to present the medal to Mr. Brian Siggins. Mr. Siggins is usually one of our backroom boys. You will find him down at the back of the room operating the visual aids. He is one of the technicians who keeps the oils of the society wheeled, and he doesn't always come to the front. But he came to the front with distinction this year, and so, sir, will you please give him the Society's medal for 2006-2007. No, absolutely. She's putting the chain gang on either side. You have already referred, my Lord Mayor, to the collection of historic artifacts that the Society has made over the years. Quite an extensive collection of documents and of artifacts representing things that happened in our city over the centuries, quite literally centuries. It has become evident to us over recent years that the Society no longer would be able to mount an exhibition effectively using these. It was all very well in the days when you could put an artifact into a case and scribble a little note on a card to say what it was. Nowadays, exhibitions are presented in a much more expert manner, guiding people around progressive development of ideas and information. And our society was convinced that this was the sort of thing that we could never manage to do ourselves. It did therefore seem wrong that we should hold on to a great deal of material which other people could use to much greater advantage. And who better than the city? The City Council through its Library and Archive Department. And so, sir, we applied to the Charity Commissioners for a cypre, which in due course they gave us, telling us that we would be in order to pass our collection to you. What I'm going to ask you to do now, my Lord Mayor, is to sign the instrument by which this happens on behalf of the Council, and I will add my signature on behalf of the Society.
Thank you very much.
I think, are you at the top or the bottom? Yes,
It's here somewhere.
Thank you.
say one thing. I hope it doesn't stop you continuing on with your work as the Old Dublin Society. I'm sure there's still many more artifacts and scripts and documents out there that need collecting, and if you come across them, of course, I hope you continue to do that. And what we will do is hopefully preserve what you have for as long as the city is around, which is, I think the first mayor of Dublin was in 1229, Thomas Mutton. And of course in 1665 we had the first Lord Mayor of Dublin, Sir Daniel Bellingham, and I'm the 338th Lord Mayor of Dublin. So I hope that the fact that we continue on, is a guarantee that everything will be looked after into the future. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. You at one stage remarked that the president of the Old Dublin Society needs a surgical operation to remove the chain. In my boyhood, there was a character living not very far from where I lived, and those of us who were young thought that he was the only person who could be Lord Mayor of Dublin. He had it for years and years. And I can see from the smiles that everybody remembers Alfie Byrne. I don't think anybody ever called him Alfred Byrne. I think he was always Alfie to everybody. And a delightful man, a very small man, but like so many small men with very large ideas. I am told that on one occasion, when he was standing for election, he, for the first time in his life, campaigned for re-election by sending a group of sandwich board men around the city with placards saying, "Alfie is in danger." And it worked. There is one other thing that we have to do before the refreshments are served, my Lord Mayor, and that is to receive a gift into the society. One of our highly regarded members in past years was Mr. Paddy Healy. He made many contributions to the society as a member and as a councillor. He accumulated a very large collection of books of historic interest and considerable value. He died some little while ago, and his brother, Mr. Peter Healy, is here today to present to us some of the books from his collection. Now, what you see on this trolley is not the full gift, but a representative selection of it. Will you come forward? Yes, please.
My brother Paddy died in the year 2000, and I'm glad I survived long enough here to present some of his collection. I think he was one of the earliest members of the Old Dublin Society. I distinctly remember my father bringing home the first edition of the Dublin Historic Record and handing it to him. And it wasn't his initiation to reading historical literature, because we had a household. We had the 1905 series of the Dublin Penny Journal and a lot of other useful sources of information. But I think Paddy joined shortly after that. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, I'm very glad to be here to hand over our books.
amenities. And it is our custom at this stage to serve tea, coffee, and refreshments. Now, we don't offer you a half a glass of wine. We do realise that you will have to put in a sober appearance at another appointment later on in the evening. But we hope you can stay for a few minutes to talk to some of us.
Of course, I can, of course.
Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the